Hello, TBU fans, and welcome once again to the Union News following the Week 6 games in Season 2 of the Battle Union. I am, of course, Shroomraver, and as ever, I am not alone. I am joined by my erstwhile companion, Chaos in the Sky.
What did you call me?
My erstwhile companion.
I'm going to let it slide for now because you're British. Continue on.
But yeah, we are here for the Union News following the Week 6 games, as I mentioned. Only 5 games to go over in detail this week. There was one game that didn't happen. That happening between Richie and Liverpool FC and Sizz and the Somerset Sizzles. And we do in fact have some news on one of those competitors. Do we not, Chaos?
I don't want to say it because then it'll be real. But unfortunately, Richie has, due to real life and probably Star Wars: The Old Republic, has consumed him entirely, and has unfortunately had to drop out of the TBU. He, I believe, was out of contention for playoffs anyway. So Frito, I believe, decided as the leader that his last 2 matches for Week 7 and 8, and also for this week for Week 6 because they could not schedule. All matches against Richie will be given a 6-0 to the person who is not Richie. So yes. I believe that means Week 7, let me see, I've got it right here. Dungan and Typhlosions will not have a Week 7 match, they'll get a 6-0 for their favor. And Week 8, where is it? I can't find his team name. There it is. The St. Louis Chatots will be getting a 6-0 in Week 8 instead of a match. Yeah. So absolutely. That was the decision that has been reached, unfortunately. But we will forever miss Richie and all of his horsey ways.
We shall.
And all I can really say is, Richie, I miss you more now than ever, and nay.
Nay. A very well worth way of sending him off with a nice little nay. But one other game did happen. You may remember way back at the beginning of the season, the match between the Somerset Sizzles and Sizz Awesome and LA Galuxray and Gabe. That had to be postponed for a little while. That game, since Sly has taken over LA Galuxray, that has actually happened. We don't have too many details on it, but what we do know is Sizz took a big 5-0 victory in that game. Again, we don't know too many details. What we do know is that Skuntank went 2-0, and apparently Licky Licky went 3-0.
I'm pretty sure that this match is a myth, and it didn't actually happen, and Sizz just kind of like mind-controlled Cyro and fed us some random information. But
quite possible. I mean,
until we see footage, we'll just have to go with it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the game just yet. I know that Sly has uploaded his side of it, but we haven't had time to watch it just yet. I'm really excited to see exactly how that played out because that looks to have been a really interesting game indeed. So yeah, we'll probably bring you more details on that as and when we have them. But for now, we're just going to get into the remaining 5 games from Week 6 of the Battle Union, starting off with a sort of bottom-of-the-ladder scrap between Quill and the Dungan and Typhlosions, and Baby Eye and the St. Louis Chatots, both of whom went into this game at 1 and 4, and what resulted was a 2-0 victory for Baby Eye and the St. Louis Chatots. He's on a little bit of a roll now, isn't he?
Yeah, if he wins Week 7, then he gets a 4-week win streak, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that, yeah. It's going to be really good to see. It's good sort of bouncing back after a little bit of a lackluster start as far as results go. But looking at the teams in the game, Quill was bringing some cool sets, some interesting things. He wanted a Weavile counter clearly, Weavile being a massive threat. So he brought no Fire Stab Infernape, which was quite interesting. Rocking out with only Mac Punch and Gunk Shot, but just asked Raikwin about Gunk Shot missing occasionally on Infernape. And then he was also bringing Hazard Stack, which is nice. Baby Eye only has Togekiss, Yanmega, and Hitmonleer's removal. And Quill has Sableye for Prankster Taunt and Spin Block.
Does Yanmega really count as removal? Like, let's be honest here.
Hey, you can't tell Yanmega that it's not removal.
I think I just did.
You're not Yanmega's dad.
Do you have proof of that fact?
To be honest, no, I don't.
Exactly, that's what I thought. Now sit down and finish your review.
Yeah, okay. And then we have Baby Eye's team with some nice sets, full defense and special attack Mega Altaria. He was running Night Slash over knockoff on the Weavile. Now he's done that before, and this time I kind of go along with it. Knockoff generally seen as the superior move, but he wanted all the damage he can get on a potential Cresselia, so fair enough. And
No,
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 not fair enough.
no, not at all. We all know that he was dealing with Josh that week and wanted the crits with the ups crit chance.
Of course. But also, I'd also like to say a shout out to Baby Eye. We like to talk about specific EV spreads and putting certain EVs into certain stats, and it's been made mention that Baby Eye doesn't do that, and he has gone out of his way to explain that it's something that he's new to, and he's tried to do it before, it hasn't worked, so he just goes with sort of non-specific 252 spreads, which is cool. It's his first league, it's something you learn with time, and I'm sure that if he wants to, he can put more sort of detail into his EVs, but for now, it seems to be doing okay for him, to be honest. Looking at the game, Baby Eye started off really nicely. Residual burn onto Thunderous Theory in turn 1. Really nice to have early residual on a setup sweeper, which is the Thunderous Theory set that Quill did bring. There were some crafty doubles going on with Quill, and he took a couple of big risks, leaving Inflape in on Mega Altaria when he needs it for Weavile. It was a risk, but he took it and it paid off because he was able to slack off damage. Big moment in this game was Baby Eye leaving Slowbro in on Thunderous Styrian. He didn't want his opponent to set up with Thunderous, and he knew he had a chance to take a Thunderbolt, given that he had a Calm Mind up. So as Quill goes for Nasty Plot, Baby Eye goes for Ice Beam, which doesn't quite take out Thunderous, but with the burn he got earlier, yes, it did take it out. So a huge risk that did end up paying off. Now, it looked like Quill was getting back into the game with a sub-offensive Mega Venusaur, but Baby Eye, trying to play around it as well as he could, which he did with his bug, his nice bug, Yan Mega, which he's used very effectively. And it looked like he'd sort of messed up when he switched Togekiss into a Sludge Bomb behind a sub. Sorry, the Venusaur was behind a sub, and goes for Defog, kind of sacking off Togekiss, but he knew he needed Defog for Weavile and Yan Mega, so I think that was a good decision, and eventually Baby Eye was able to play him out of the sticky situation fairly well, using his fairies to break Mega Venusaur subs and get his threats in. And towards the end, Quill, it looked like he kind of misplayed, not going for Aqua Jet with Crawdaunt onto the Rotom Heat, but he was calcing worst case scenario, as is wise to do, calcing an Aqua Jet against a max physical defense Rotom Heat, which could have taken the hit. So I guess, fair enough for him for doing that. It didn't quite work out for him in the end. The Rotom was able to live, do some huge work to the Infinite, which left Weavile free to take out the Crawdaunt and give Baby Eye that really well-won 2-0 victory.
Am I supposed to say something now?
If you want, you can sort of... anything to add on that, I guess? I sort of went into a bit too much detail there.
Yeah, no, you were fine. It's just I thought you were going to keep talking, but then you stopped, and I was like, crap, do I say something now? Or is he about to say something? I thought it was a really good match. I always love seeing defensive Infernape. I don't know why. Yeah. I just really do. It's because every time I see it, I think there's no way that thing can take a hit. Look at it. It's a monkey. But then it does. and then it has slack off. I swear, Infernape gets like 98% of the moves in the game. I don't know why it doesn't just have Leech Seed. It may as well at this point.
just for the hell of it, just give it Leech Seed. Why not?
You know what Infernape needs? Slack off, protect, Leech Seed, substitute. Obviously.
Yes, it absolutely does.
Anyways, I don't really have much to add. You pretty much said it all. It was a very good match. It was very well played. Baby Eye made some risky plays. Quill made some safe plays, and they both ended up either helping or costing them. And it was a pretty good match.
Yeah, Baby Eye built a really good team, and that's his second win. Coming in now, he's sitting at 2-4, and he's kind of manoeuvred himself into a pretty nice position. So yeah, very well played to him. So with that, we're going to move on to the second game, and that saw Trip and the Dallas Staravias on a little bit of a roll. It has to be said, at 3-2, taking on Sky's Scandinavian Stoutlands, also sitting at 3-2. So a nice sort of upper mid-table scrap there. And this one ended up in a 2-0 victory for Trip and the Dallas Staravias. So, Trip was very proud of his Mega Medicham. It can put in a nice amount of work against the Stoutlands. I was a bit worried for him when he said that Sky has nothing that beats Mega Medicham, but although he did have a Volcarona, which does kind of type-based matchup wore the set he brought, which was Fake Out, Bullet Punch, Drain Punch, Ice Punch. So I was a bit worried that he'd kind of underestimated that Volcarona potential. Other than that, we know that Sky has a hugely offensive setup-based team. And there are kind of two ways of dealing with this this kind of hyper-offense. You either go with your own hyper-offense, or you bring all of the bulk. And Trip very much opted for the latter. Assault Vest Snorlax, defensive Carmine Florges, defensive Defog Scizor, specially defensive Arcanine, and my personal favourite, physically defensive Subseed Stall Breloom, which I thought was excellent. It's not very often that you see Breloom brought in this defensive kind of role.
Breloom is the best.
Yeah, I like Breloom. It's a mon that doesn't really get a lot of love in the format because it's not seen as being particularly good, a bit too frail, a bit too slow. But this was an interesting take on it that I really quite liked. Then, on Sky's team, he brought Toxic Spike's Drapion. Yay! I'm really happy he made a point of mentioning it in his team builder, and I was really happy to see it. Compounding that with not bringing Defog, because Trip only has one Stealth Rocker and he wanted to keep his own hazards up. So, I liked that decision as well. And then you've got this sort of genie combo, Nasty Plot, Thunderous Incarnate, Rock Polish Yachi, Landorus Therian, looking to be a really interesting game. In the game, Trip was using defensive Breloom very well. He did get a massive first turn crit fake out onto Landorus Therian, which did end up mattering a lot, which we'll come onto in a little bit. Snorlax was putting in a nice amount of work, though it does have to be said that it did nimbly dodge 2 Focus Blasts. Snorlax, very well known for its ability to dodge things. It's a very, very agile Pokemon, which we all know. Trip, plays an interesting game with Empoleon versus Florges. He knows it's got an item weakening berry. He knows that. So what he does is he just goes for consistent damage and really well played Florges. Knows that he can live a couple of iterations of Toxic. So he goes for a last gasp wish before going down, allowing him to pass that into the next mon very safely. And then you see Empoleon versus Scizor. Trip knows that Empoleon's going to take Scizor down, but he also knows he can get a slow defog off, so he keeps going for it, gets rid of hazards on his side very well, but Sky adapts to that situation, sees Trip's plan, goes into Drapion for the taunt, and in the process gets his Toxic Spikes up, so a really nice adaptation from Sky to Trip's plan. Then we see Mega Metachan looking pretty good. It takes out Drapion. In comes Landorus Therian, who has the Yachi Berry, gets the Intimidate, but because of that earlier crit that we mentioned, down goes Landorus Therian, and now Sky is looking in a bit of a sticky situation, but once again, he adapts. He plays well around Breloom's protecting shenanigans. But then he gets unlucky. He misses another Focus Blast onto Snorlax, which allows the Snorlax to take out the Thunderous, and from then Arcanine was able to come in on Heracross, chew a Stone Edge, live the recall, and give Trip the 2-0 victory. So he gets some good fortune, but he's built a very nice team with some incredibly specific, intelligent, bulky spreads. And while Scar's ideas were spot on, I thought, he did get unfortunate up against a somewhat lucky, but also very purpose-built team from Trip, allowing Trip to take another victory.
In our little Week 6 scores thing on our spreadsheet, who spells the Pokemon's names?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Why so?
Well, I'm going to have a very serious talk with someone later, because you definitely do not spell Thunderous, Thunderous.
Ah.
I don't know who did this, but I'm changing it right now, mid-recording, to what it should be, and I'm going to be lodging a formal complaint in our Chaos Complaints section.
Another installment of Chaos Complaints. We've missed Chaos Complaints.
I'm pretty mildly upset right now.
Righteous indignation from Chaos.
Yeah, I do quite like Thunderous, and I don't appreciate people incorrectly spelling his name, so I'm going to have some serious talks with some people later.
Well, we do enjoy your complaint section, so whoever wrote that, I don't know who it was, but you have officially been complained upon.
Get wrecked.
I'm looking really sternly into my camera, which is not recording my face.
Good job, man.
But there was a look there, a look of, "Ooh, you, how dare you," kind of thing going on.
I'm sure that we can kind of imagine it.
But yeah,
it was a very good match. I enjoyed it. Like, we rarely
was.
have bad matches in the TBU, except apparently when a Licky Licky gets 3 kills. I can't even say it properly. I'm still mystified. But it was a really good match. It was really unfortunate with the focus misses, but that's why I call it focus miss.
Yeah.
Man. I'm one of those people who doesn't miss focus blast very often, so I'm always like surprised when I see people miss like 2 or more in a match, because I usually miss like 1 a match, if that. Stone Edge, however, I miss about 78 times out of 4, so I guess that for other people, focus miss is just the problem. But it was a good match. It was really unfortunate because I feel like Sky could have won if he hadn't missed those attacks, but at the end of the day, it's Pokemon.
Yeah, absolutely. And that I suppose Sky runs a risk every week by bringing the kind of hyper offense that he does. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite that worked against him. It was the RNG. But as we say, these things do tend to happen occasionally. Sky's still sitting at 3-3, so he's still looking in a fairly strong position. I think with a couple of games to go, he can definitely get himself really into playoff contention. Trip, after starting 0-2, is now sitting at 4-2 and has made a really strong comeback. So, with that, we can move on to the third game, and this was always going to be a huge match. Josh and Slateport Vale versus Eric and the Bristol Bedoofs. This was always going to be a massive game. Josh unbeaten, Eric having only taken 1 loss. This was going to be a sort of indicator of a front runner for the title this season. And the game went to Josh, continuing his unbeaten streak, taking the 2-0 victory. Eric, I liked a lot of the stuff he was bringing. He was going for some more standard stuff. A standard-ish Conkeldurr with Fire Punch, basically for the Scolipede, but it also hits the likes of that Jirachi that Josh has hanging around. I thought Earthquake might have been a better option. Just for more neutral hits as well as still hitting Rachi, but I understand why he chose it. Scolipede looked to be a bit of an issue. Rock Polish Tyrantrum is the best. I love Rock Polish Tyrantrum. Again, just on a little sort of issue that I had, he was packing Outrage over Dragonclaw. I thought Dragonclaw might have been a bit better. You don't want to be locked in on Outrage when your opponent has a Rachi and an Aromatisse. But yeah, other than that, some pretty nice stuff. Josh was bringing specially defensive Aromatisse. I liked this decision. It's horrible to try and deal with at the best of times, but I really liked the decision to run Spadef. Eric was expecting physical defensive to try and deal a bit better with Tyrantrum. However, Eric's physical attackers, as far as Aromatisse is concerned, either destroy it, in the sort of sense of head-smashing Tyrantrum, physical Nidoking, or just straight up lose to it 1v1 for the most part. Conkeldurr, Honchkrow, Sharpedo, whether it's physical defense or not. So this way it can take on Eric's special threats a little bit better and still take on some of the physical ones. U-Turn and Manaphy was an interesting touch. I liked that as well. Not sure the full extent of that set, but it's not something you often see on Manaphy, so it can sort of come a bit out of left field. And as far as the game goes, Eric really having early issues with that aforementioned Aromatisse. When it became quickly apparent that it was specially defensive, he suddenly realised, I have very little for this, and he had to try and play around it, and he didn't manage to do it as effectively as I think he would have liked. Tangrowth Sludge Bomb was not doing enough damage, and eventually that got tricked to Scarf, so it wasn't taking special hits as well, given that its Assault Vest was gone. He also had no switch-ins to Scolipede, had to kind of check it with Scarfed Raikou, which he could do to an extent, but not before taking sort of massive damage from a Megahorn. And we saw an interesting Jirachi versus Honchkrow matchup. Josh playing very ballsy, staying in on the pursuit to paralyze it, and then wishing on the Sucker Punches. Eric does event. What's that?
You just Skype lagged when you said paralyzed. It was like you got paralyzed. That was great.
Oh no, classic Skype. Always kicking in at the best of times.
Yeah, I mean, I like it when Skype has a sense of humor, but continue.
Yeah. But yeah, Eric does eventually get it right versus Jirachi, gets a big old hit off on Pursuit, but who comes in? It's that Aromatisse again. Now Eric does...
Did you just rhyme? Wait.
Did I?
That sounded like it rhymed. Who comes in again? aromatized it? Maybe you didn't. It sounded like you rhymed for a second there, and I was upset. But please,
Let's pretend that I did.
I don't know. I was half listening, and I thought I heard a rhyme. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you. Please continue.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But yeah, Eric does sort of eventually manage to take advantage of the aromatisse, switching in Guts Conkel to take a toxic. But of course, he doesn't pack poison jab, so he doesn't really have a lot to still hit that aromatisse. He does bluff the poison jab very well, and that allows him to take out Rachi, which is just one fewer Tyrantrum switching. But when it comes to Dragon versus Dragon, we saw a double down. In comes Zygarde for Josh, Tyrantrum for Eric. Eric doesn't feel comfortable, so he switches out, and Josh is left facing down. The Tangrowth predicts the HP Ice goes into Manaphy, who then starts to become an issue in and of itself. The late game Manaphy started to cause problems. Miracle Milotic just didn't take it out. What that means is that Eric has to lose Tangrowth, and eventually Josh was able to get Zygarde in and take the late game 3KO sweep with what I'm assuming was Scarfed Outrage. Eric kind of had to bank on the 2-turn Outrage Confusion to win it with Tyrantrum. Unfortunately, he was unable to, and Josh keeps standing tall, you know. He's still unbeaten. What's it going to take to beat this guy?
I don't know how you defeat the creator of a game. Like, I assume they're going to have to go through an entire, like, anime arc, like in Yu-Gi-Oh! When they defeated Pegasus, who created Duel Monsters. I assume you have to, like, go through an entire journey of, like, 40 episodes of random friendship to be able to defeat Josh at this point. That's the only thing I know that can beat him at this point is the power of friendship. All of these guys in this league just continue to crap on each other, so I don't think any power of friendship is going to be popping up anytime soon.
No. Does that make Josh the antagonist of the Battle Union Season 2?
I think it does. I think we can all agree that the protagonist was Richie because he was the one we deserved, but he thought he wasn't the one that we needed right now.
I like that linkage. That's very good. And true as well, of course. But yeah, Josh marches on 6-0 right now.
You know what would have saved Eric?
What's that?
Scarf Rantrum.
Yes, it would. Well, it would have. Actually, would it? I think Zygarde still outspeeds.
Was Zygarde scarfed?
I think it was.
Was it?
I can't be sure, but I think it was. We'll have to ask Josh. Let us know down in the comment section, or on Skype, or in person, or by owl. What set you were running.
I don't like owls. Can you send a falcon to me instead?
Send a falcon to Chaos, letting him know what set you're running on your Zygarde. I would personally request an eagle with your answer. So make
what happened to the owl? We can't just cut the owl out.
Well, I drafted the owl, remember?
We'll send the owl to Frito and it can peck out his eyes. There you go.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Maybe that will make him get good. You never know.
Maybe he plays better blind. We'll have to find out. Well, we'll be talking about his game in a couple of games' time.
I just, ever since Frito said that the, like, week 4 or something was the crap on Frito day, I just like to crap on Frito more and more as the Union news goes on.
And it's come down to owls pecking out his eyes. That would be an unfortunate.
What else would owls do?
I don't know. Hunt mice? Is that what they do?
Are you calling Frito a mouse? Is that what you're doing?
No, he's an evolution.
Is Eevee a mouse Pokemon?
Have we discovered a new Pokemon?
I think we've discovered a new Pokemon.
Just call us Professor Oak.
Get Goodien.
Because we're one person now, apparently. But yes, we're going off on crazy.
I've never seen it. I've never seen us in the same room. But let's get to the next match.
Yeah, on to the next match, which saw Gassy and the New York Shelmets sitting at 4-1, taking on LA Galuxray, coached now, of course, by Slyro, who at the time was 2-2. I think if we include the Sizz match, it was 2-3. But this was always going to be a nice one as well. And it saw Gassy keeping his winning ways. He took the 2-0 victory here. Banded Azumarill is back, which is always terrifying.
DT switching.
What's that?
DT switching.
Yeah, absolutely. Creeping the Gramble / Electro. So I'm not sure which one he specifically sped crept, but it was certainly one of them. Ferrothorn was in to check the Excadrill, completely walled by Whimsicott, but realistically, what can Whimsicott do back to it, of course? And we saw another example of Hazard Stack here. He was bringing all of the hazards that he had, knowing that Sly only really has Mew, who doesn't want to be forced into a defensive role against Gassy's team. Excadrill, who also prefers to go offensive, or Mega Beedrill. And on my notes, I've just got, or Mega Beedrill, brackets. Because Mega Beedrill, not your go-to defogger.
All these bugs thinking that they can defog stuff. They can't. They just can't. They don't understand.
Foolish little bugs. What are you trying to do?
You're it's stick to 6-0ing Frito. That's what you're good at.
Yeah, absolutely. What else do we have? I've got semi-offensive Sandvale Donphan, you cheeky little shit. Obviously, there's no Sandvale ban here. I'm not sure entirely on what the views on, for example, Bright Powder is in this league, but Sandvale perfectly allowable. And it did kick in the game, but we'll come on to that in a little bit. Modest Scarf Hydreigon can outspeed the Beedrill, I believe. He was EV to do that. Sly, he was bringing Scarfed Rapid Spin Excadrill with Toxic, which was for like the Alamomola, the Cofagrigus. He did have X-Scissor for the Levitators, Hydreigon and Mesprit, which would have been a nice touch if he wasn't packing Mold Breaker, which he was, which I found intriguing, especially as he did bring Sandstream Hippo. But with no Sandrush and no other Sand immunities, I was a little bit worried. What I did like was Scarf Mew, fully specially offensive. Always nice to see Mew not forced into that defensive role, which, again, as Gassy pointed out, he wouldn't have wanted to have. Looking at the game, Gassy looking to do what he did last time, early Toxic Spikes pressure, but face down with a Taunt Whimsicott, Sly was looking to sort of nip that in the bud as soon as possible. And yeah, Sly just kind of making safe early plays in the early game, fast realising, as we saw with Eric and the Aromatisse, he fast realised that Ferrothorn was a huge issue for him. The only fire coverage he had was Granbull's uninvested Fire Punch, and this was a physically defensive Ferrothorn. So it wasn't looking too good for him. But he did try and play around it as well as possible. We saw a matchup of Ferrothorn versus that Granbull, and Sly going for the nice bluff play, going for play rough first turn, predicting Ferrothorn to protect, which is exactly what he did. So trying to bluff the overprediction, lull his opponent into a false sense of security, and then goes for Fire Punch and gets the burn. Gassy, I believe, was suspecting that a little bit, but he did stay in anyway. Kind of didn't work out so well for him. Gassy was kind of content to just wear down Sly's team, which he did very effectively, and as Sly said in his commentary, Azumarill was just looking scarier and scarier. But Sly has tricks of his own. He'd already gone for a physical hit with Granbull onto Cofagrigus and got Mummy. So when in came Azumarill to take out the Granbull, Azumarill got Mummy over huge power, which I thought was a nice touch. Meant that he could force out the Azumarill with Whimsicott and try and get himself back into the game, critting the Mesprit in the process, which meant that Gassy could not Healing Wish into his Ferrothorn, which I think he wanted to do. So then we saw Sly using in his sack plays very intelligently, using Beedrill as death fodder to absorb Toxic Spikes, which was a nice touch. Then late game, Donphan versus Hippowdon. Hippo can keep the rocks up if Sly plays it correctly, which he did. And then I quite like seeing Donphan avoiding an Earthquake because of Sandvale, because Gassy is a cheeky little expletive. And yeah, Sly sort of worked out that Azumarill was banded, but by the time he did, he'd just run out of things to take a hit. And he kind of did a bit of a miscalc. It looked like he could have won with Whimsicott, but he didn't think he could live a hit from Azumarill. He goes for Leech Seed, he lives on 1%. He could have Giga Drained, he might have won, but he didn't quite manage it. Azumarill just kind of overpowered him and gave Gassy the 2-0 victory.
That is the 4th 2-0 this week.
Yeah, they've been some really close games, actually. This one, I say, no different. But yeah, Gassy kind of just wore down Sly's team and eventually overpowered him in the end. So yeah, Gassy sort of marching on. After a little hiccup sort of mid-season, he's really back on track, isn't he?
Yeah, he definitely is.
So, yeah, with that pretty much said and done, we can move on to the final game. And this saw Enzo and the Swiskers sitting at 3-2, taking on Frito and the Welchions sitting at 2-3. Now, unfortunately, I have forgotten to write down the score of this game.
It's a 4-0 for the Welchions.
4-0 for the Welshons, a very nicely played game from Frito. Firstly, I would like to say to Frito directly, thank you for respecting the power of Mega Ordino. I approve. He said he was not underestimating it in his team builder. So yeah, props to you, Frito. Be easy to sort of overlook Mega Ordino, but you can't. Standard.jpg physical defensive Vaporeon. Power Punch Uxie is a cool guy. We like that. But his main weapon in this battle was going to be Banded Entei. Frito. He's sort of saying, tell me what reliably switches into Banded Entei. I mean, Mega Ordino does. But Frito knows that, you know. He knew that Mega Ordino was going to be the one thing that could switch in. Knew he needed to try and get some damage on it, so that was fine. Good speed EVing across the board from him. You know, he's building very, very intelligently in this game. I quite liked Enzo shit-talking people who aren't even in the league. Because when these two were supposed to meet last time, Frito couldn't make the game, so Jack, our very own Don Fanatic, took over. To which Enzo said he battled Jack last season, quote, which was an easy win for me. Jack definitely needs to get good.
He's not wrong.
He's not. Well played, Enzo. And also his team names. We saw a little hint of what he names his teams and what he names his opponents, which I really enjoyed. His name for Frito was Leader of the Fritophiles. Gassy he just called GBA. Richie was Nayboy, and Sky was just Beer.
Nice.
Which I enjoyed. And whilst we saw sort of the main threat on Frito's side being that Banded Entei, for Enzo it was going to be sub-bulk up Gallade, which is cool. Mixed defenses, Steadfast for the potential Mega Lopunny fake out, and wanted to try and set up on a -2 Lati or the Vaporeon. And the big Specs Rapid Spin Starmie was back. I get that he's kind of forced to do that. But yeah, Frito, early pressure, rocks up turn 1 and gets Entei in early before Ordino has megaed up, which means that basically Enzo is taking massive, massive damage and was pressured not to lock in on Rapid Spin with Starmie, which meant Frito could keep hazards up. Enzo did try and get that Gallade set going, but unfortunately Gliscor really put a hole in that plan and halted Gallade after it had put in some massive work against Vaporeon and the Latios. And we saw Taunt Gliscor putting in work for Frito, but it just came back to Entei versus Starmie. And that's what it looked to be. It was going to be Entei versus Starmie, and it depended on who had to sack the most Pokemon earlier. But Frito, he had enough prior damage on the Starmie to the point where Extreme Speed from Entei could take it out, and Entei basically won the game for him. So Enzo decided to troll Frito. With his Mega Ordino on 6 HP, he got a triple protect.
I loved that so much.
Oh, it was fantastic.
You see, there's being a douche and just doing that for the sake of doing it, but the way Enzo did it was hilarious.
Oh, absolutely. He knew he'd lost by then, so he just went for 3 protects and got them, which I found very entertaining.
Oh, you thought this battle was over? Nope. You thought this battle was over? Nope. Oh, maybe it's over now? Nope.
Not quite. Frito had to work for it. I also quite like that even though Mega Lopunny wasn't there, Steadfast did kick in due to an Iron Head flinch, which I thought for a second might have allowed him to come back into it with Gallade being able to outspeed the taunting Gliscor, but wasn't quite enough,
Didn't have anything to hit Gliscor. That was the biggest mistake, in my opinion, was that, Gliscor, which has got really good Fizz Def, resists your stab, and then your other move is a base 40 priority to hit.
Yeah, I think that if he was trying to set up on the -2 Latios, it might have been better to be running Ice Punch over the priority, but I could see, I've been a victim of running Mega Gallade without priority and it really coming back to bite me, so I can understand his thoughts going into it with that. Unfortunately, Entei basically is a god and got the best of him in this one. So a nice big win for Frito. That puts him back on parity at 3-3. Same with Enzo, so really, as far as these results go, for a lot of people, it's still anybody's game looking for those playoff positions.
Yep.
So with that,
before we move on, I would like to make some connections here. Entei, banded, 5 kills, 0 deaths. Azumarill, banded, 5 kills, 0 deaths. Both of the teams that they were on won this week. And if you look at that, that means 1 kill was given to 1 Mon in each of the other teams. For Azumarill's team, it was Hydreigon. For the Entei's team, it was Uxie. So I think it's safe to say that Uxie and Hydreigon are basically the same Pokemon and are interchangeable now.
Absolutely, yeah, I would think so. And also, they are basically the second best Pokemon on those teams.
They both have Levitate.
Bar none. Oh, what have we? We're discovering so many new things about Pokemon today, gang.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure. Does Hydreigon get Zen Headbutt or some kind of psychic move?
I think it does.
They both get U-turn. They are the same Pokemon.
They both get Hidden Power,
except for HP Grass.
That's true. We're learning things today, gang. As we've said before, never let it be said that we are not educational.
I'm naming all of my Uxies Hydreigon from now on.
And all of your Hydreigons Uxie.
No, that'd be stupid, Shroom. What are you talking about?
So I've gone too far. What am I doing? Honestly, sometimes I don't know what I'm saying.
Let's move on. We keep getting on too many tangents.
Yes. Let's move on to how these games have affected the standings. So first up in the Kanto division, I quite like how these results sort of go down. We've got Slateport Vale and Josh sitting at the top 6-0 without a loss still. With let me see, what have we got here? Differential of 17. That is really, really good. I mean, he is playing so very well right now. But the Shelmets, the New York Shelmets and Gassy, they're just below on 5-1. But there's the difference. Differential of 17 for Slateport Vale, differential of 4 for the New York Shelmets. So it's going to be difficult to get himself back into this. I don't know whether he's going to be able to go above Josh unless something drastic happens.
It would have to be Gassy wins twice, Josh loses twice. It's the only way.
Yeah, and the differentials would have to be big. They would have to be huge.
No, I don't think it would matter then, because Josh would end 6-2 and Gassy would end 7-1.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You are, in fact, correct.
I don't think there's any way the differential can catch up unless Josh loses twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, very much so. But it's not over for the Dallas Staravias and Trip. As we said, he started off not so well, but he's now sitting at 4-2 with a differential of +5. The Swiskers and Enzo, they're at 3-3 with a differential of 1. Then we see Quill's, Dungan and Typhlosions at 1-5 with a differential of -12. And down at the bottom, Liverpool FC, Richie's team at 0-6 with the -19 differential.
And that's also now confirmed it's going to end up being 0-8 with a -31 by the end of the season, I believe.
Yes.
Anyways, over in the Johto division, we have the Bristol Beedoofs, Eric, with 4 wins and 2 losses with a differential of +10. So looking pretty nice. He's, been Beedoofing it up these last 2 weeks, but he's still standing strong at number 1. He's definitely not going to be able to keep Beedoofing if he wants to keep that position.
Yeah.
Then we actually have 3 wins, 3 losses for the next 3 teams. But differential puts Frito and the Welshians at second with 3 wins, 3 losses and a +4 differential. The Scandinavian Stoutlands and the Somerset Scissors. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Oh, finally.
You got it right.
Finally.
Yeah.
I'm still calling it the TBU. They are both at 3-3 with a +3 differential, so they are literally tied in every way imaginable, and they both start with S. But I think we go by the first part of the name, so Scandinavian and Somerset, I think S goes first.
I think, the Stoutlands have 1 more KO for, and
that's how we go for.
Against.
I was thinking, are they ahead by alphabet? But then I was like, no, that's not how the alphabet works. That's not right at all. But okay, I didn't know that they did it like that. But they go by KOs 4, and the Stoutlands have 1 more KO 4 than the Scissors, so that decides the Stoutlands in 3rd, Scissors in 4th. Then we have the LA Gluxray and Cyro in 5th with 2 wins, 4 losses. The same as the St. Louis Chatots are in 6th, except Sly has a differential of -4, while the Chatots have a differential of -13.
I mean, it's really interesting how different the divisions are, because at this point, Slateport Vale, I believe, have guaranteed themselves a playoff spot.
Yes, I think go ahead.
It's the Typhlosions and Liverpool FC who are out of it. But then you look at Johto division, and it's just so up in the air. You've got 3 teams on 3-3, with so little between it, differential of 4, 3, and 3. And then 2 teams at 2 and 4 who could still do it. The Chatots are on a 2-win streak, which is excellent.
One of their matches is a guaranteed 6-0. They only have to do well in one more match.
Yeah, that really is going to be a huge boost for Baby Eye after a bit of a rough start. He's not out of it, not even by a little bit is he out of this, which is fantastic. I also quite like the fact that he has currently the joint 4th longest winning streak so far, which is cool. I like that. That's a nice touch. But yeah, the Johto division still very much up in the air. But with that, we're going to move on to see how this week's games have affected the MVP race. So, starting off at number 10, we have Chandelure from Josh's Slateport Vale, currently sitting at 5-1 with a +4 differential. Exactly the same as number 9, Aromatisse, also from Josh's team, Slateport Vale, 5-1 with +4. Sitting in at number 8, we've got Yan Mega from the St. Louis Chatots, sitting at 6-2, +4 again, which is the same as the Bristol Bedoofs Milotic, sitting at 6-2 with +4. And in at number 6, also the Bristol Bedoofs, still up there after one really good performance, it has to be said, Excelgor at 6-1 with a +5 differential.
I kind of like how Josh only has 2, despite being undefeated, has only 2 Mons in the MVP race, and both of them are at the very bottom.
Yeah, it kind of shows how much of a team effort his team is putting in. No one Mon is like massively standing out here. Everything's putting in a really good performance for him. Yep. And it's just quite interesting that Aromatisse is basically, alphabetically at least, at the top of that list.
Yep. Anyways, going to the top 5, in 5th we have Kyurem Black with 7 kills and 2 deaths from the LA Deluxe. If I'm not mistaken, if I can say the word mistaken, I'm pretty sure Sly, since taking over, has not used Kyurem B, has he?
That's correct.
Very interested to see if he's going to continue the no Kyurem B clause he has going for the last 2 weeks.
It's interesting that you say that, because we might pick up on that in a little bit.
Oh. Anyways, on to 4th, we have Honchkrow with the same differential as Kyurem B with 7 kills and 2 deaths. That's from the Bristol Bedoofs. Then in the top 3, we have Gudra at 3rd from the Swiskers with 9 kills and 2 deaths. In 2nd, we have Banded Inte with 11 kills and 2 deaths from the Welchians. And then, of course, number 1, Banded Azumarill, Mr. DT Switchin himself, with 14 kills and 2 deaths from the New York Shelmets.
Very impressive from Azumarill. It's funny how, you look a few seasons ago in various draft format, and Azumarill kind of went out of favour and just wasn't seen on too many teams. And, I think Gassy is really sort of leading the charge of bringing Azumarill properly back into the fold and showing, why it was so good before and how it's basically still the same. It's just funny how these sort of trends happen, I guess. But 14 kills, 2 deaths, that's come off of 5 games. That's very impressive stuff. So, we'll have a quick look at some of the bench trades and transfers that have happened. 4 things to pick up on here.
Before you do those, I just want to point out that in this bench trade, thank goodness Quagsire is not coming off the bench.
Yeah,
because it can't. And that's I'm going to I'm gonna it's on the bench forever, and I'm gonna mention that every Union News because it just makes me so happy.
Well, the first one that we're going to talk about for this week, Sky has moved Heracross to the bench and picked up the terrifying Alakazam. So a really sort of polarized switch there. Massive physical offense out, massive special offense in. He has 3 switches remaining this season. He's used them very effectively. Then, very interestingly, Eric has benched Nidoking and has picked up Reuniclus from the bench. But what's most interesting about that is he has used up all of his bench switches. So he can no longer call on Nidoking.
Ooh.
Nidoking's seen as like a massive wall breaker in the format, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of plans he has for those last 2 games.
I would be upset if it wasn't for the fact that Reuniclus was what it was traded for.
Yeah, absolutely. Reuniclus is a massive threat in and of itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, excuse me. Interesting to see what he's going to have planned. The last 2 involve Frito. He has traded Doublade to Enzo's Swiskers and has picked up a Scavalier in its place. which is interesting. He has one trade remaining this season, and the final one, also involving Frito, he has made his final bench switch, moving Fortress to the bench to pick up, of course, Sylveon. It wouldn't be Frito without him using Sylveon. He knows how to use it, he knows how to get the best out of it, but he's moved a Premier Rapid Spinner to the bench and can no longer pick it up. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles not having that hazard removal and indeed not having that hazard setting either.
Yep.
So with that, let's take a look ahead to Week 7, see exactly who's going to be playing who as we move towards the end of the regular season. And what a match we have first. This is going to be huge. Josh and Slateport Vale taking on Gassy and the New York Shelmets. 6-0 versus 5-1. Big Kanto top table rivalry going on here. This is going to be such a massive game, isn't it?
Oh, it definitely is. I believe they're 1-2 in the league overall right now.
Yeah, they are.
So they're basically fighting for who's at the very top of their division.
Absolutely. Then we have the second Kanto division game. That's going to be Enzo and the Swiskers taking on Trip and the Dallas Staravias. So 4-2 Staravias versus the 3-3 Swiskers. Again, this is a really close-looking game because these two are fighting it, as we say, for another sort of playoff position, and it could go to any one of them, and this will be a really deciding factor, I think, for both teams. The third game, that's going to be a bit of a non-entity. That's the Dungannon Typhlosions versus Liverpool FC. Both, of course, out of it. That's going to result in the 6-0 for the Typhlosions, but as we say, they are both out of the running for playoff positions. Fourth game, that's going to see Sizz and the Somerset Sizzles taking on the St. Louis Chatots and Baby Eye. Both of these guys really on a bit of a roll. The Sizzles are on trying to use my words here, but it's very difficult. The Sizzles are on a 3-win streak. The Chatots are on a 2-win streak. 3-3 takes 2 and 4. So that's going to be an interesting game. Then we have LA Galuxray and their sort of interim end-of-season coach Slyro taking on Eric's Bristol Beedus. Eric still at the top of the Johto division, but he has taken 2 losses in a row. He will be desperate to get back on track and really sort of assert the dominance we saw at the beginning of the season for him. While Sly will be looking to continue on the up and up and get himself into contention as well. Final game, that's going to see Sky and the Scandinavian Stoutlands taking on Frito's Welchions. So that's a massive game, both on 3-3, separated by 1 point of differential, looking to both try and take second in the Johto division. That is going to be another huge polarizing game, I think.
Definitely. Pretty much all of the Johto matches are going to be like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's everything to play for in the Johto division, so we'll just have to see who comes out on top in the coming games. So, with that, we're going to be sort of getting towards the end of the video, but of course, we've got time for one more section of the video, and that is everyone's favourite smack talking section. Yes, the segment that you all know and love. We've encompassed some smack talk and some interesting facts that we learnt about our coaches today. So, sit back and join us. First up, Super Gassy. This isn't a smack talk bit in itself, but he says, fun fact, I failed stats class last semester, but somehow made the whole TBU sheet. So, priorities for Super Gassy, and I approve of them, to be honest. What about you, Chaos?
Who takes stats class? Come on.
Did you take stats?
No, I didn't have to.
Ah, good man.
I mean, I'm still in college, but I'm a major in psychology. I don't have to take a stats class. I only had to take one math class, and I finished it in my freshman year. I'm never doing math again.
Good man. I majored in English, but whenever I heard anyone talking about stats, they kind of sort of glazed over and went pale and started shaking, and we had to put an army blanket around them and sort of comfort them a little bit.
Started to have flashbacks?
Yeah, a little bit. Apparently it was awful.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. And then, now we can get into a bit more sort of smack talk. You remember you spoke about Sly not having used Curum Black so far?
Wait, I did? Oh, great. You're going to start talking about the stuff that I did like 4 days ago, and I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
No, not at all. Eric has to play against Sly. He said, just promise me you won't bring both Excadrill and Kieran Black. That's all I ask, because that's scary. And Sly says, I don't do promises. Also, I've already gone 2 weeks without Kieran Black. I could go the rest of the season without it.
I'm pretty sure he lost the last 2 weeks, didn't he?
No, he won one.
He won one? Oh, I was thinking of Sizz. Where he lost to a Licky Licky.
Yeah, oh yeah, he did lose to a Licky Licky.
You know what kills a Licky Licky?
Apparently not Kieran Black.
Apparently not.
But that's a bold statement from Sly, saying he could go the rest of the season without it. Remains to be seen if he's going to. But, you know, Eric on the receiving end of that, so he decided to really get into the game a little bit. When people were talking about there was a bit of confusion in the chat as to who was guaranteed playoffs and who wasn't. And Eric comes in, I think you're going to like this one, Chaos. Eric comes in with, you know who isn't guaranteed playoffs? All the teams that Excelgor have gotten kills against. Oh, wait, that's only one.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. He's not
What
wrong.
is Frito's matchups for the... Wait a minute, let me look back at the matchups. Who's Frito? Frito's going to get wrecked by Sky, and then Frito's going to get wrecked by... Who's in Week 7? The Dallas Staravias? It's over.
Absolutely. Yeah, I quite like that from Eric, and Frito's response to that was basically, yay, Eric's learnt to smack talk. It's nice.
Is it really smack talk if he's just predicting the future?
Well, it's kind of a little bit. Any mention of Excelgor is basically smack talk these days, but
That's a
it's
fair
nice
point.
to see. It's nice to see Eric learning to smack talk. They grow up so fast, don't they? It's nice to see.
Isn't he like one of the only of us who is married in this?
Yes.
If we're telling him to grow up, nice.
Yes. He loves it really. What have we got?
I love it too, Starscream. I love it too.
Oh, have I Starscreamed?
You did for a little bit. It's over now.
Good. What have we got here? Trip entered in. He made a bit of a typo apparently, which people like to pick up on just for the hell of it. He said he was talking to Gassy and he said he hit space instead of N. My bad. I'm only human and not a hacks prophet. Super Gassy comes back with no. You're the hacks victim. Picking up on something that Trip hasn't suffered from for a while, which is the paralysis. He said, I'm sure when your leg falls asleep, you think of the cold nights you stayed awake, just trying to make it move. But you can't because it's paralyzed. It's been a while. It's been a while since Trip has been a victim of paralysis, but early season, they really contributed to those couple of losses that he took. But hasn't happened yet for a while, so touch wood for him, it won't happen again. What else have we got here? Sizz needing Sky to lose, tried to sort of get Josh to promise he'll beat him. This one isn't so much smack talk as just Sizz being Sizz. Josh said, I have him being Sky week 8, so I guess if you pay me in sexual favours, I could beat him for you. At which point Sizz said 3 words. Deal. Bend over.
I remember that.
Which is sort of, I guess, would we call it sweet or ominous?
I think it depends on Sizz's mood.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm not really sure how to feel about that one. I've kind of freaked myself out a little bit, and I'm not even directly involved.
Not yet, you're not.
Well, oh, God. Moving on. Very swiftly to the final one. I quite like this one. I think you will as well again. Josh suggesting someone should get a voice clip that says bugs and edit the shots songs so it goes bugs, 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 everybody gets swept, and have it as our theme tune. And Eric said we could do it with some clips of both sweeps and Sky and Frito's faces to play in the background in a montage.
Oh, that would be glorious. I wish I had the skill to do that.
So do I. If anyone out there has the skill to do this, make it happen. Please make it happen.
Sizz will pay you in sexual favors if you do.
Yes, he will. And probably so will Shardy. Whether you want that or not.
Trying to get them to do something for a Shroom, not scare them away. What's wrong with you?
Okay, we'll stop Shardy from doing it. But just for you guys, if anyone can do that, I personally, I'm sure Chaos as well, and Josh and Eric apparently, and probably Gassy. Let's be real about this. Would love to see it. So the artistic ones among you, get on that, make it happen. Hit us up on Twitter if you can, and you've made it, and we would love to see it, I think.
You know what? I don't know why I'm thinking of this right now, but throw back to the time that Frito thought that Power Hyper Beam worked.
Why has that come to mind?
I don't know. I was just thinking of it. I was actually thinking of it earlier and thinking I'll bring it up during we talk about his match just because, and then I just remembered that I was going to do that now, so I was like, I better just bring it up now.
Maybe we could make like some kind of montage of all those kind of
every time Frito has failed miserably?
Well, every time anyone has failed miserably, and we could call it Be Doofing Around. So many plans.
That would be the best montage ever. It's just clips from people's TBU matches where they did something stupidly wrong, and then it's just a Bidoof pops up and its cry plays.
Yes.
I would love that.
Absolutely would love to see that. So yeah, hopefully one day in the future, someone somewhere will come up with those beautiful videos, and we will love you, and we will shower you with love.
Unless you're shoddy.
Yeah.
But we all know shoddy wouldn't do that because that's too much effort.
This is true. But the rest of us, we would shower you with love, and Sizz might even go further. Who can say in this day and age?
Watch out for Sizz.
Well, he's a sly one.
He might bring his licky.
Oh God, no! Why licky? For some reason, it's just
it got 3 kills.
But for some reason, that's the worst Pokemon to say in that situation.
I don't know, man. Jinx would freak me out the most.
I think it's the tongue.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we go off onto a weird tangent, probably about time to be wrapping up the video. So, to all of you who've stuck with us through this very interesting Smack Talk segment and the entire video, thank you all for joining us. We do hope that you have enjoyed. So, Chaos, any final words to sign us out?
Why does Licky exist, and how did it get 3 kills? I'm about to go watch this video.
Yeah.
Frito, please continue your efforts to get good. You might actually make playoffs, and if you do, I'll still say you're bad, so don't worry. Eric, you're letting me down. I'm going to have to ask you to stop. Ripchi. Yeah, that's...
Ripchi.
Nay.
Lest
we ever forget.
Lest we forget nay. Hashtag nay in the comment section down below.
Yes, I'm going to have to ask you all to hashtag nay at Babelai and say we miss you. But not as much as Chaos.
This is true. But yeah, that's pretty much, as I say, going to wrap things up from us. Stay tuned, as my phone makes a weird noise. Stay tuned.
We talked about not texting your girlfriend during the recording, man.
Oh, you act like that would even be a possibility.
You text with your right hand, don't you?
Wow. Sometimes. Depends what I'm doing with the other one. Really swiftly moving on from that. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, stay tuned on the Battle Union channel for further analytical videos, and keep an eye out on our coaches' channels for the Week 7 battles, which should be going up towards the end of this week. But once again, thank you all for joining us, and we're going to get out of here. So yeah, take care, TBU fans. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Farewell.